Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining the Wednesday online class here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. We will start with Jai Radha Madhava, and then I'll start with my presentation. Okay. Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Kunja Bihari, 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 Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamlam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinaj Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rushabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpadrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kam karoti vachalam pangum ligate girim yat kripatam Shri Guru Dinakaranam. Hare Krishna. Thank you again for joining tonight's online class here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. So let me share my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, Prabhu, we can see your screen.
Okay. Let me move this down. Okay. So today's topic of discussion is on Bhagavad-gita. So I'm going to speak from chapter 7, which is titled The Knowledge of Absolute. Now, in Bhagavad-gita, there are different yoga systems that has been described. There is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So there are different types of yoga that has been described in Bhakti Yoga, in Bhagavad-gita. The essence of Bhagavad-gita is Bhakti Yoga. The main goal of Bhagavad-gita is Bhakti Yoga, and mainly how to achieve the loving devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the essence of Bhagavad-gita. Now, when we talk of yoga, yoga means how to connect our consciousness with the Supreme Lord. So we can, based on the method that has been employed, the yoga system is called by different names. Just as Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga means when you link your consciousness to the Supreme through your prescribed duties. That is called Karma Yoga. And the same thing, when you link your knowledge, when you link yourself through knowledge to the Supreme Lord, is called Jnana Yoga. And when you link through meditation, it is called Dhyana Yoga. And when you link yourself through devotion, that is called Bhakti Yoga. All these yoga systems, the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, are the stepping, stones, as you can say. But the ultimate goal is the Bhakti Yoga. They are, stepping stones towards the Bhakti Yoga. Now, Bhagavad-gita has 18 chapters. And it is, mainly divided into 3 divisions, chapter 1 to 6, and then chapter 7 to 12, and then 13 to 18. Now, chapter 1 to 6 is mainly deals with the Karma Yoga. Although in that section, Krishna briefly talks about different kinds of yoga. He talks about Sankhya Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. He talks about Karma Yoga. He talks about Sakama Karma Yoga. And then he talks about Nishkama Karma Yoga. Doing Karma Yoga with the mentality of fruity activities is called Sakama Karma Yoga. First, he asked Arjuna to do Sakama Karma Yoga. Then he says, better than that is Nishkama Karma Yoga. You do your prescribed duties, but without attachment to the results of your activities. That is Nishkama Karma Yoga. So he talks briefly of different kinds of yoga systems. He talks about the nature of the soul, how the soul is eternal. There is no death for the soul. So that is the content of the first 6 chapters, and mainly it dwells with the Karma Yoga. Now, the chapters 7 to 12 deals with Bhakti Yoga. And then chapters 13 to 18 deals with Jnana Yoga. Now, if you see the Bhakti Yoga, which is the essence of the Bhagavad-gita, is placed in the middle section of the Bhagavad-gita. It is preceded by Karma Yoga, and it is succeeded by the Jnana Yoga, right? So it is in the middle. The essence of Bhagavad-gita is mentioned in this middle chapters, and these are the most important chapters because as it deals with the Bhagavad-gita and as it deals with the Bhakti Yoga, and which is the essence of the Bhagavad-gita. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is a great saint and a philosopher in the line of Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya, he makes an analogy of Bhagavad-gita to a jewel box. So you have a jewel box, and there is a jewel inside the box. So he compares the lid with the the first part of the jewel box. In the top is considered to be the Karma Yoga, the first section, first 6 chapters, and the bottom is the chapters, the third part of the Bhagavad-gita, which is chapter 13 to 18. So he gives the comparison of the jewel box, gives an analogy, and the perfect essence of the Bhagavad-gita is that jewel which is present in that jewel box, and that are the chapters, the middle chapters, which starts from chapter 7. So we're gonna start discussing the chapter 7, some verses, not all the verses. Probably we'll cover till 12 verses, but we'll see. Now, preceding to the chapter 7, the chapter 6, Krishna describes that out of the tapasvis, out of the tapasvis and the emphorist, gnanis, or the fruit actors, yogi is the best. So he says that yogi is best among the tapasvis and gnanis and the fruity workers. And further he says in the last verse, he says, Yogina sarvesham madgatanantar atmanaha. Says Yoginam api sarvesham madgatanantar atmanaha shraddhavan bhajato yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Of all the yogis, the yogi who abides in me, who thinks of me and does transcendental loving service unto me, that yogi is the best. That is my opinion. And that forms the seed verse to the next section of Bhagavad-gita. So he tells that, of all the yogis, the yogi who is rendering the loving devotion service unto the Lord, who always thinks of him, who always abides in him, that is the best yogi. So that forms the seed verse, and that's where the chapter 7 starts. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Sakta Manaparta Yogam Yunjan Madakaya Asamshayam Samagramam Yathagnyashashi Tachrunu. Mai Asaktaha Manapartha. So the Supreme Lord said, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Lord said, now here, O son of Pratha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So here, this is a very important verse, and Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse many times. And here he is saying that, how can he know, how can Arjuna know him in full? He is saying, Mai asaktaha manaparthaha, by your mind, by attaching your mind onto me. Yogam yunjan mad ashrayaha, you perform your yoga in full consciousness of me. Asamshayam samagram mam, so without doubt, asamshayam, without doubt, samagram mam, you will know in full. Samagram means in full. Yathagnyashashi tach chruno. Now he says, you hear from me. Tach chruno, you hear from me. Now, here, in this chapter, describes the opulence of Krishna, mainly the energies of the Supreme Lord. So in this 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences. How we manifest such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. So Krishna is full in all opulences. So he is full in 6 opulences. Fame, beauty, strength, knowledge, renunciation, and I forgot one. Fame, beauty, wealth, knowledge, renunciation, strength. So these are the 6 opulences, and he possesses all these opulences in full. If someone says he is God, we see that many people in this world claim to be the God, but then we should ask, why don't you show all these opulences? Do you have all these opulences? If he shows, then we can accept it. But, they fail to show these opulences. Now, when, even in the living entity, can have some kind of opulences, a minute kind of opulences in him. And when a person has, but he will not have all the opulences in full. He might have some opulences, prominent opulences. Some may be very wealthy. He may be very powerful. He has maybe he has a lot of knowledge. Whenever a person has some kind of opulences, they attract the general populace. If someone has a fame, then people are attracted towards that person. If he has knowledge, people are attracted towards such persons. So here Krishna is giving the glimpse of his opulences to establish his greatness. So we will see what those opulences are in this chapter. So Prabhupada says here that one is able to know absolute truth by concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, but not otherwise. If we want, people who are, the intelligent people who wants to, the main goal of the human life is to question what is the purpose of life. What is my purpose, and they try to get to a platform of self-realization. So some people might start by impersonal realization. The impersonal realization is the some kind of formless realization. Some may think that Supreme Lord is just the light, or he's some kind of formless entity. And some people like Gnanis, they try to concentrate on Paramatma, the localized feature of the Supreme Lord as Paramatma. But all this realization is not complete. Although they are trying to realize the absolute truth in these features, but this is not complete. When you realize the absolute truth by concentrating your mind on Krishna, then you will get the complete knowledge. And this complete knowledge will have the knowledge of impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma. So everything will be revealed to a person who is on the platform of Krishna consciousness. And now here, a very important thing that Krishna is mentioning is Tachrunu. He's saying, hear from me. Hear from me this knowledge. So now the concept of hearing is stretched here, stressed very much here. And Prabhupada mentions why is it important to hear. There are 9 process of devotional services. One can render the devotional service using these 9 processes. Starts with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So there are 9 processes of devotional service, but primarily is Shravanam and Kirtanam. One must hear and chant. That is the main, the primary, the primary service that one can perform to, to develop the loving service onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. So Prabhupada mentions some important verses from, first canto. We will go through that verses here. So it goes. Shrunvatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hrudayantasto hi bhadrani vidunote shruhutsatam. Shri Krishna, personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Shrunvatam swakatha Krishna, punya shravana kirtana, hrudayantasto hi bhadrani vidunoti shruhusatam. When you hear and chant properly through the proper source, the hard knot that is there in, in our heart, the hridaya antastohi bhadrani, it cleanses the material, the hard knot of material desire to enjoy this material world. It cleanses that desire from the heart of the devotee. So, and this hearing process has to be heard from a proper source, proper authorized source in the disciplic succession. If you don't hear from the disciplic succession, then it is it will not have any potency. And also, Prabhupada says here that there is. He quotes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's verse from the Sishtastakam that there is no difference. Krishna is absolute. There is no difference between his form or the name or his messages or his pastimes. There is no difference. One can hear his pastimes, hear his messages. It's same as been associating with Krishna, and there is no difference between Krishna and his messages. And it is said in Shishtakshtamam, Nam Nam Akari Bahuda, Nija Sarva Shaktis. He has many names, and all his potencies are stored in these names. So even in this yuga, the chanting of the holy name is prescribed as the main activity to realize or to attain the devotional service. So, so this is hearing process is very important. Nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam and by rendering service onto pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service onto the supreme loving service onto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established an irrevocable fact. So what happens, when you hear when you hear and perform service onto the pure devotee, the things that are troublesome to the heart are completely destroyed, and then you will taste the sweetness of the loving service onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nasta prayeshu bhadreshu. It destroys all the bhadras, all the inauspiciousness Abhadreshu, all that is inauspiciousness, it destroys. Nasta prayeshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. By hearing, Bhagavata, or serving the devotee. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that there are two kinds of Bhagavatas. One is book Bhagavata and another is devotee Bhagavata. You can, both of the Bhagavatas are the competent remedies, and both of them or either of them can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. So one should either, one should serve the devotee, or one can read the book, books like Bhagavad-gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, where the instructions of the Supreme Lord are mentioned, and the pastimes of the devotees are mentioned, and one has to hear from the proper source. Tada rajas tamo bhava kama lobha dayesche cheteter anavidham stitam sattve prasiddhati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of the nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. So the living entity is actually spiritual. We will see that in the following verses in the chapter that we are discussing, that how the soul is described as a spiritual energy. So the living entity is spiritual, but because he comes under the control of this material nature, and mainly these three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, he forgets his identity as spiritual, as a servant of the Supreme Lord. He forgets his identity, and he gets into the cycle of birth and death. So when you hear from the Supreme Lord the messages, or his devotees, and when you hear Bhagavatam or render service unto the Supreme Lord, the loving, the things that are very troublesome to the heart is destroyed, and the loving service unto the Supreme Lord is established, and the hankering that one has for, such as the lust, desire, and hankering disappear from the heart, and the effects of these modes of the material nature slackens. Then the devotee is established in the goodness, and then he becomes happy. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus established in mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by the contact with the devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation and from all material association. I will read another verse. Vidyate hritaya grantis chiddante sarva samshaya shiyante chasi karmani drishta evatmanishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all the misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as the master. So the heart knot, is pierced, and all the doubts are cleared, and he comes to a perfect knowledge that I am the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, and the only purpose of my life is to do the devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then here Srila Prabhupada, back to our first verse, chapter 7, Srila Prabhupada says that the non-devotees think that the devotional service is very easy to perform. But actually, Prabhupada says it is not very easy. It is very difficult. Once you perform with rules and regulations, it's very difficult. And he's saying that if the non-devotees think that it is very easy, then why do they not take to this? Why do they take the the hard path? The impersonal path. Why do they take that? So they think that the devotional service is easy because they are following the unauthorized process. That's why they think it is easy. And they actually belittle the devotional service. He says it's so easy, so they belittle the devotional service. But Prabhupada says, quotes Rupa Goswami's words here, saying that this is only it only creates disturbance in somehow that verse is not given here in the so somehow he says that so anyways, so he says that so the people they think that the devotional service is very easy, and but only because they are following the unauthorized process. But the devotional service is very very tough if you follow according to rules or regulations. And here Krishna is also saying that when you know this, when you attach your mind to him, and when you hear, you will know the knowledge in full. And once you know this knowledge, there is nothing needs to be known. And we will see that what that knowledge is in the next verse. Jnanam teham sa vijnanam idam vakshami asheshataha yad jnatva neha bhiyo nyat jnatvayam avishishyate. Jnanam teham sa vijnanam. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. Jnanam teha sa vijnanam. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Here, Krishna is introducing, two different types of knowledges. He's saying Jnanam and Vijnanam. Jnanam is the knowledge about this phenomenal world. Phenomenal knowledge means the material world, his energies, his opulences. And Vijnanam means the personal feature of the Lord, his personal nature, his sweetness, his mercy, his interaction with the devotees. That's the Vijnanam. And Prabhupada calls, he mentions in his talk that Jnanam is theoretical. You learn, it's a theoretical knowledge, whereas Vijnanam is a practical knowledge. When you are realized, when you are realized, it's a realized knowledge. It's a practical knowledge. So when one has to know about a great personality, one can know him through his opulences. So here Krishna is saying that I will impart you Jnanam and Vijnanam, knowing that there is nothing in this world to be known. Yad jnatva neha bhihonyat jnatvayam avishishyate. There is nothing that needs to be known in this world. This is the complete knowledge. So if you if you want to know anything about the any great personality, you will learn through his deeds. If he is a president, he did something great, you know him through his deeds. So you can know his how powerful he is, right? But you don't know his personal nature. You have to interact with him, you have to personally associate with him to know the personal knowledge about him, right? So similarly, the Jnanam is the knowledge about his energies, about his energies, about his opulences. Krishna has both the material energy, the spiritual energy, and the source and the controller of all these energies. That is the complete knowledge. So one must know both the phenomenal knowledge and the luminous knowledge, numinous knowledge, which is the personal knowledge, and knowing this knowledge is the complete knowledge. And after knowing this, one will know the Supreme Lord in full. So here, Prabhupada is saying, in the beginning of the 4th chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can be achieved only by the devotee of the Lord in disciplic succession, directly from the Lord. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes, and only object for meditation in all types of yoga practice. So, a very, Prabhupada is pointing a very important, bringing up a very important point here. He's saying that the complete knowledge, who can achieve the complete knowledge? Only a devotee of the Lord in a disciplic succession, directly from the Lord. Only a devotee can achieve the complete knowledge. No one else can achieve the complete knowledge. Once there are jnanis and yogis who again they know the Supreme Lord in a in an impersonal, they realize the Supreme Lord as a impersonal Brahman or the localized Paramatma form, but still they cannot explain how this world came into existence. They thought that this is just by coincidence. They cannot explain. They think that because there is form in this material world, in the spiritual world, it might be without forms. There are activities here, there should be no activities in the material world. So their knowledge is incomplete. They cannot explain the whole existence of this material world. So it's not very clear. But when a devotee knows the Supreme Lord, he knows his energies as well. Everything becomes clear to him. He can explain how the material world came into the existence. What is the relation between him? What is his constitutional position? Who is the ultimate controller? Everything becomes crystal clear. Just like a student, when he reads, generally in my school, when I had in my school, the importance was given to the memorization. There is they ask some question, you just memorize certain things and reproduce that everything as it is in the paper, and you get complete marks. But if you write something different, you lose the points. So you are theoretically writing, but your knowledge is, not perfect. It's very dull. You cannot explain things. If we have to explain the things, it is very dull. But if you, sit down with your teacher and you go through point by point and you hear and you learn from him, then everything becomes clear. So just like that, for the devotee, everything is very clear. He can explain the existence of this world, how this world has came into the existence, different energies, the interaction with the energies, who is the controller of these energies. Everything he can explain very clearly. So let's go to the next verse. Now, here in the next verse, Krishna brings up the point where he says that how rare is this knowledge. He says that Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhe yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So there are many people in this world, and they are, in ignorance. But there may be few people who might want to endeavor for self-realization. And out of those people who are endeavoring, only few of them might achieve the perfection, but they still don't know the Krishna. So here Prabhupada talks about again, the impersonal realization. The grannies and the gnanis and the yogis who concentrate on the impersonal feature of the Lord. But Krishna can only be known to the people who are in Krishna consciousness. Only the devotee who has the loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord can only know the Lord. Otherwise, it is not easy to understand. Even the demigods cannot understand. Lord Brahma got bewildered that how come the Krishna, he is eating, how come the little boy is the Supreme Lord? He is the absolute truth. He is eating the remnants from his friends. How can he be the Supreme Lord? So even the demigods become bewildered. What to speak of ordinary living entities, living beings, already human beings, so they are bewildered. So here, Prabhupada is saying the same thing. Krishna can be known only by the persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is a supreme person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. Yogis and Jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of the impersonal Brahman. So that is the point that Prabhupada is stretching, that only the Krishna is known by the devotees. And again here he's saying no one can understand Krishna as he is by his blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Atha Krishna namadi na bhaved graham indriya sevan mukhehi jivado swayam eva Spriti Adaha. Once Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was giving a class in a temple, and they had two halls. One was a temple hall where the deities was there, and another was a lecture hall where he was giving the lecture. And he was in the middle of the talk. The arti started, and the ring of the bell was heard by the devotees. And some of the devotees left from the class, and they attended the arti, and they came back and again sat on the class. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur became, very angry. He said, "Where were you?" And then said, they said that, we went to take darshan of the Lord, thinking that, their Gurudev will be happy. But he was not happy. He said, "What will you see with your, eyes? You will only see the stone." So one cannot actually see the Lord with their material senses. One has to hear from the authorized devotees. And he said that you cannot see Krishna by your senses. You have to hear, and you have to hear from me. So that's a very important point that Prabhupada is bringing here, that unless one has developed that mentality to hear and serve the pure devotee of Lord, and achieve this loving devotional service unto the Lord, only then you can see Krishna. Otherwise, you cannot see Krishna. And such a person is very rare. And then next verses, he talks about the energies of the Lord. From verse 4 to 12, he talks about the energies of the Lord. So we'll see what those energies are. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kham mano buddhir evacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti astada. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kham mano buddhir evacha. Earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Bhumir is earth, apo is water, nalo is fire, vayu is air, kham is ether, mana is mind, and buddhir is intelligence. These are the 8 principal material elements, and out of these 5 are gross. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. They are gross. You can see them. You can feel them. But the 3, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, are subtle. And all these 8 elements constitute the separated material energies of the Lord. He's saying that these energies are bhinna prakriti. This means these are separated energies, or the external energies of the Lord. They are material. They are not spiritual. And they are 8 in nature. So here in purport, Prabhupada is bringing up the 3 plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord. So for material creations, Lord Krishna's plenary expansions assume 3 Vishnus. So these 3 Vishnus are the plenary expansions and the expansions and the expansions of Lord Sri Krishna. The first one is Mahavishnu. He enters into this material world, and then through his force, he creates many universes. And in each of these universe, Garbhodakshai Vishnu enters, and from the navel of the Garbhodakshai Vishnu sprouts the lotus stem, and the Brahma is born from that lotus, and that the stem contains the 14 planetary systems, the 7 planetary systems below, and the 7 the heavenly planetary systems. And then the third Vishnu, which is the Shirodakshai Vishnu, enters into every living entity's heart. In fact, he enters into every atom of this material world. So the Mahavishnu is the super soul of the whole material creation. Garbhodakshai Vishnu is the super soul of that particular universe, and Shirodakshai Vishnu is the super soul of that living entity. And these 3 Vishnus are responsible for creating and destroying and maintaining this material world. Actually, there are 24 material elements. The senses, the 5 senses, like eyes, nose, ear, tongue, and skin, and then 5 working senses. So the senses which I mentioned earlier are the knowledge acquiring senses. Through these senses we acquire the knowledge. And then there are working senses, which are hands, legs, voice, the evacuating organ, and the genitals. These are the 5 working senses. And then there are 5 sense object, the smell, touch, taste, form, right? And then all these, and then there are 4, so we have 5 gross material senses. So 5 sense acquiring, the knowledge acquiring senses. 5 are the knowledge, the working senses, and 5 is the sense objects. So this constitutes, comes in 20, and then we have 3 subtle senses, which is mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then we have material modes of material natures, which constitute 24 elements. And then there is time. The time is considered to be the mixing agent. These 24 elements are known as pradhana. And when the Supreme Lord creates this material world, he glances on this pradhana, and with this time, with this eternal time, and through the modes of material nature, the whole creation comes into the existence. And out of this, the false ego, Prabhupada says that the false ego is actually the general propensity of I and mind. That is the main binding principle of a living entity to this material world. He thinks that he is the Lord, and he wants to enjoy himself, and everything that he acquires, or anything, his family, or any objects this acquired, and he thinks to be his. And this I and my propensity is very prominent in this. living entity who is conditioned in this material world. Aprayam itastve anyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabhaho yayedam dharayate jagat. Beside this, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material, inferior nature. Says, aprayam itaste anyam. Other than that inferior energy, there is another energy of mind, which is spiritual. Prakritim vidi me param, which is superior. Jiva bhuta mahabhavo yayedam dharete jagat. This living entities, this other superior energy comprises of these living entities. And these living entities are exploiting this material nature. And thus he says that this is the although the living entities is here mentioned as the spiritual, but they come under the control of the inferior energy. Although it is spiritual, so there are three energies of the Lord: the internal energy, which is the Lord's energies, the spiritual energies. There is the external energy, the material energy, and then there is the marginal energy. Although he is spiritual in nature, the living entities are the marginal energy. Sometimes they come under the control of the spiritual energy, the internal energy, or they come under the control of external energy. When they come under the control of external energy, they get bewildered, they get conditioned, and they fall into this cycle of birth and death. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord. And it's due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by spiritual energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, and therefore the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. So the Supreme Lord is the Purusha. And the living entity is the Prakriti. The Purusha is the controller. The living entity is the controlled. He is the energetic. He is the energy, and the living entity is the energetic. So, because he is he's spiritual, but he is, because he can be controlled, so he can be either controlled by the external energy, or he can be controlled by the internal energy. But the purpose of bhakti yoga is to come out of this cycle of birth and death, break the the living entity who is controlled by this modes of material nature, come out of it and come under his constitutional position, which is to serve and to be controlled by the interior energy. Etayonini bhutani sarvaniti upadharyaha aham krishnasya jagata prabhava pralayasthatha. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am the origin and the dissolution. everything that exists in this world is made of matter and the spirit, and everything is the source of everything. Matter and the spirit is the Supreme Lord. That's what Krishna is saying here. Everything that exists is the matter of matter and spirit. Spirit is the basic field of creation, and matter is created by the spirit. Spirit is not created at certain stage of material development. We see that, scientists, they say that we can create life from matter, but they cannot prove, they cannot, if you give all the material elements and ask them to create the spirit out of it, they cannot do it. But they cannot believe that the spirit is actually the source of this matter, of this material world. They think that, Big Bang theory, that some explosion just happened sometime in the, sometime in the past, and because of that, all the universes came into existence. So they cannot accept that this material world is created by the, by the spirit, and the Supreme Lord is actually behind the creation of this material world. The material body is developed because spirit is present within the matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood because of that spiritual energy. Spirit soul is present. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation of gigantic verse is developed because of the presence of the super soul, Vishnu. Therefore, spirit and matter, which combine to manifest this gigantic universal form, are originally two energies of the Lord, and consequently, the Lord is the original cause of everything. So, there is the living entity cannot exist without the super soul. Once the super soul leaves the body, the soul within that living entity follows the super soul, and he cannot, the body is nothing but made of this, 5 gross elements. Matha parataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre mani gana iva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on the thread. If you see the necklace of pearl, there's pearls around the thread, and this thread is not visible. So here Krishna is saying that everything, everything rests on him, just as the pearls are resting on this thread, and this thread is invisible. Just like this all material manifestation we see, but we cannot perceive, the non-devotees cannot perceive the presence of the Supreme Lord, and that he is the supreme absolute truth. There is no truth superior to him. He is the absolute. There is no truth superior to him. But non-devotees cannot see the presence of the Lord. There is a common controversy over whether the Supreme Lord is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad-gita is concerned, the absolute truth is the Supreme is the personality of God is Sri Krishna, and this is confirmed in every step. Everywhere he's saying, I am the Supreme Lord, I am the Supreme Controller. Do devotional service unto me, surrender unto me. He is saying so many times throughout the Bhagavad-gita, but the Mayavadis, the impersonal people, they don't want to believe. They, they still cannot think that the Supreme Lord is a person. So going to the next verse, I think we are running short, but we'll see. Now, the next verses from 8 to 12, Krishna describes how one can perceive the presence of Lord in this material world. So as we see in the previous verse, he's saying that as the pearls are string on the thread, but it is invisible. You cannot see the thread, And in next 4 verses, he mentions how one can perceive this Supreme Lord in the material nature through these material elements that he had mentioned earlier. Earth, water, fire, ether, and air. So here says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhashmi shashe shurayo pranamha sarva vedeshu shabda ke paurusham nushu. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in the ether and the ability in the man. So the taste of the water is, very special, very pure. When we, we say the water is generally, odorless, colorless, but we never say that water is tasteless. There is a taste of the water, and that's the pure taste. And Krishna is saying that taste is me. I am the taste of that water. If you want to drink, the water from the ocean, you might not like it because it is mixed with the salt and it's salty, and you might not like it. But if you get the pure water and you drink it, it quenches your thirst and you're satisfied. And that, the pure taste of the water, Krishna is saying that that's him. The impersonalists perceive the presence of Lord in the water by his taste, and the personalist also glorifies the Lord for his kindly supplying the tasting water to quench man's thirst. So you see here how this devotee is perceiving the presence of Lord in water, and how the impersonalist is seeing. Impersonalist seeing it as a taste of water. But Krishna, but the devotee is seeing, as a supplier of this. He is the actual, supplier of this water, and he is, and he's getting this water only because of him. And that is the difference. And Prabhupada says that is the way of pursuing the Supreme. Practically speaking, there is no conflict between the personalism and impersonalism. One who knows God knows the impersonal conception and the personal conception are simultaneously present in everything, and there is no contradiction. A person who is in knowledge, who has realized the one feature of the Lord, can know the impersonal feature. He can pursue the impersonal feature and the localized feature to be the Supreme Lord. So in that way, there is no difference. And this is the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Prabhupada quotes here is Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneously one and different. And he also says that he is the light of the sun and the moon. The light of the sun and the moon is derived from the Supreme Brahman. So they are getting their energy from the Supreme Brahman. And he says that he is the light of sun and moon. The syllable Om in the Vedic mantras, the impersonalists, they don't want to chant the names of the Lord. There are many names of the Lord which are not different than Krishna, but they don't want to chant. But they utter Om. They meditate on Omkara. So this is the impersonalist way of perceiving the Lord. But even devotees, we also recite this Om with any verses that we recite, so that way we can also pursue the Lord in that way. Punyogandha pratiyam cha tejas chasmi vibhavasu jivanam sarva bhuteshu tapas chasmi tapasvishu. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Here Krishna is saying that he is the fragrance of the earth. Everything in this material world, you see, like a flower. We have different kinds of flowers, and they give a very different taste. Every flower has a different taste, and that is Krishna is saying that I am the fragrance of the earth. When the earth is dry, and when you get the fresh shower of rain, you can smell the earth, very beautiful smell, and that is the fragrance of the earth. And one can pursue the Supreme Lord in that way. And he also says that I am the heat in fire. When there is a fire, someone has raised a hand. Is Prabhu, is there a...
That was me, Prabhu.
Long back?
When you finish your thing, actually there is a online comment from someone, so I just wanted to...
Okay, all right. So
do you want me to tell the comment?
Yes, yeah, you can go ahead. We can take that.
So this is actually from Navneet Soni Prabhu. He's saying, I don't know if you know him. He's saying, Hare Krishna, Gopal Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. I hope you remember this fallen soul today. I heard 3 classes, including yours, coincidentally, all related to impersonal and personal. Prabhu.
Okay.
I don't know if you know him, Navneet Prabhu, but...
Navneet Prabhu, okay.
Navneet Soni.
Okay. Maybe if I see his picture, maybe I recognize.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was the only comment from. That's fine. Okay. Can you go ahead, continue.
Sorry, Prabhu, I did not see that your hand earlier.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Please continue.
So I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Punya means that which is not decomposed. Punya is original. Everything in the material world has a certain flavor or the fragrance, as the flavor and the fragrance in the flower or in the earth, in water, in fire, in air, etc. The uncontaminated flavor, the original flavor which permeates everything, is Krishna. Very beautifully, Prabhupada is explaining that every material element that is made out of earth, has a distinct original flavor. Every flower, rose has a distinct flavor. Jasmine has a different flavor, and it's very unique. And one can pursue that as as energy of the Lord, and one can pursue Supreme Lord as that. But as a devotees, we know. As a devotees, we can see that how the Lord's energy is playing the role here, but everything is coming from Krishna. Similarly, everything has a particular original taste, and this taste has changed by the mixture of chemicals. So everything original has some smell, some fragrance, and some taste. Vibhasu means fire. Without fire, we cannot run factories, we cannot cook, and that fire is Krishna. The heat in the fire is Krishna. According to Vedic medicine, indigestion is due to the low temperature is in the belly. Krishna says in 15th chapter that I am the fire of digestion. So one can, meditate on that and worship Lord as we, I can see that as we age, the fire of digestion is, getting reduced. So we can pursue Supreme Lord in that way. The duration of man's, so even for digestion, fire is needed. In Krishna consciousness, we become aware that the earth, water, fire, air, and every active principle, all chemicals, all material elements are due to Krishna. The duration of man's life is also due to Krishna. Everyone, therefore, by grace of Krishna, man can prolong his life or diminish it. So Krishna consciousness is active in every sphere. So as we know that every living entity, there is a super soul. The Shirodakshai Vishnu is staying with every living entity. And when he leaves, the soul, the soul also follows the super soul, and the living entity ceases to exist in this material world. So he is the life in that, he is the life of all the lives of the living entities in this material world. Bijam mam sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham. O son of Pratha, know I am the original seed of all existence, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all the powerful men. Krishna is again establishing here that he is the source of everything. There are so many species of life. Prabhupada mentioning here is 8,400,000 species of life. Some of them are moving and some of them are not moving. But the seed of everything is Krishna. You can go to next verse. Balvam balvatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire, and the sex life which is not contrary to the religious principle. O Lord of the Bharatas. We can take another verse and I can talk on this. And this last verse of this of today's presentation, Krishna says, Echaiva satvika bhava rajas tamas chaye mata eveti tanviti natvi aham teshu temayi. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the mores of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So Krishna is saying that in the previous verse, he is the strength of all this, all the strong, and he is the sex life which is not contrary to the religious principle. All the strength, powerful people we see in this world, we can perceive that their strength is coming from Krishna. He is the source of their strength. But people who are powerful, they get puffed up by their power, their little opulence, because they think they are the controller. They think they are the Lord. So they become puffed up. But no matter how strong you are, you might be the strongest person in the whole universe. But your strength is coming from Krishna. And also Krishna is saying that he is the sex life, but he is a sex life which are according to religious principle. One has to follow the religious principle according to the rules and the regulations that has been prescribed. Like one can have sex life with only with their spouse, only to procreate the Krishna conscious kids, children, and that is according to the righteous principle. And then he is saying that all these modes of passion and goodness and ignorance are actually his energies, but in that sense, but in that sense, he says that he is independent. He is not dependent, and they are not control. He doesn't come under their control. But on the contrary, he says that all these energies are within him. So that's, sorry, I rushed up in the end, but that is the gist of today's presentation. We heard about the 7th chapter, how the middle section, the 7th chapter, is the beginning of the Bhakti Yoga, and which is the essence of the Bhagavad-gita, and which is presented in this middle 6 chapters starting from 7 to 12, and how Krishna is mentioning that only by attaching his mind to him, abiding by him, he can get the knowledge by hearing from Krishna. And we have seen there is 2 kinds of knowledge, Jnana and Vijnana, which is the knowledge about the phenomenal world, material world, and the knowledge, the personal knowledge, the personal feature of the Supreme Lord. And then we saw about how this knowledge is very rare. Not everyone can know him, and how he is powerful. Everything is resting on him. And we know that the thread is not visible. The non-devotees don't see it. And then we saw about the energies of the Lord, the material elements, which is the energy of the Lord in earth, water, fire, ether, air, mind, intelligence, and false ego, the 8 elements. And we also saw the essence of these 8 elements, where we can perceive these elements through different qualities of these elements, like fragrance from earth, heat from fire, taste from water. And then he says how he is the intelligence of the intelligence, strength of the strength. And finally, he says that all these modes of material nature are, his energies. They are within him, but they don't. But he is not controlled by him. He is, he is not controlled, because these energies are controlled by him, and he is the controller. So thank you, and that's the end of the presentation. If there are any comments, questions, corrections, please let me know. Thank you.
Haribol Prabhu, thank you. Wonderful class. You summarized this well towards the end. I'm just reminded of that verse you were reading from Bhagavatam, where it said that if you read, Bhagavad-gita or Bhagavad-katha, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gita, even Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? And then with the devotees, then that hard knot, which, keeps you in this cycle of birth and death, that gets severed and you can get released. So that was a very interesting point there in Bhagavatam.
Thank you for bringing this point, Prabhu. Yes, I think that is the only hope, in this material world, because otherwise it's very tough. The association of the devotees is very, very important, and hearing from the authorized in a disciplic succession in the presence of these devotees and the association is the only hope that in this material world, which can sustain us in this in our devotional service. Otherwise, without the association of the devotees, it is really really challenging to to do our devotional service.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you again for Navneet Soni Prabhu for his comment. Yeah, thank you for I have been doing some talk based on the Bhagavad-gita. I have covered some talks on first 6 chapters earlier. That's why there is lot of Karma Yoga talks on Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, and that's where the topic of impersonal and the personal realizations come. There's a lot of all these chapters talks about different kinds of yoga, but there is a prominent yoga that certain chapters talk, but there are some traces of other yogas as well. In first 6 chapters is Karma Yoga, but we also talk about Krishna also talks about Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga. So yeah, thank you for your comment. Thank you, Prabhu. If there are no other questions and comments, we can end at this point. Thank you. Again, we will have the program again on Saturday starting at 6:15 a.m. in the temple. So please join us. And with that, I will take your leave. Vanchakalpadrubhyascha Krupa Sindhuveyacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you.
Prabhu ki jai.
Ananta Vaishnava Vrundi ki jai. And also thank you for Ashray Madhava Prabhu from bringing up this online class week after week on a consistent basis. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Haribol. We'll close this session now, dear devotees.